So something's happened.
Okay, we're live.
Thank you. Right, so welcome everyone once again to our meeting of the Corporate Parenting Panel. Just a reminder, protocol for online meetings is that for members in particular, if you can keep your videos on and mute yourselves unless you're speaking. In case of technical problems, we may have to adjourn the meeting, but I'm hoping that won't happen. So, attendance by reserved members. So item 1 on the agenda, attendance by reserved members. Good, we've got Councillor Lewinson reserving for Councillor Seymour, and any others? Okay, we've got Councillor Ramchandani here, and we've got Councillor Anderson,
yeah.
Councillor
Reserving for Councillor Henson.
Right, thank you for that. Right, okay, so before we move on, we need to appoint a vice chair for the year 2021 to 2022. So can we have nominations for vice chair? Any nominations for the vice chair?
I'm happy to do it, Chair.
Oh, excellent. Thank you, Councillor Ramchandani. So, Councillor Ramchandani, you're appointed as Vice Chair for 2021 to 2022 municipal year. Are there any declarations of interest? Okay, thank you. I think the form was sent out earlier on by the IT. Moving on to the minutes. So we're going to look now at the minutes of the meeting held on the 2nd of February 2021. Are there any aspects of the minutes that sort of attendees disagree with? Do we all agree? Those of you who were here, who were present? Thank you. Thank you, Sue. Okay. So petitions. So I will take the minutes as read from our previous meeting. No petitions have been received in advance. Are there any petitions from members? Do you have any petitions? No, none. Thank you. So no public questions were received, neither were any deputations received. Before we move into asking our care leavers for some feedback, just a reminder that sort of each presentation, those of you presenting will be limited to 20 minutes, and that is to include questions. That's just to make sure that sort of we finish in a timely manner. So if there are no disagreements with that, we will move on now to item 7, which is the update from care leavers and their experiences of housing, recruiting social work staff, and the updated local offer to care leavers. So I'm going to hand over to Jacinta and Peter Tolley to present the report. Over to you.
Thank you for that. I know we were expecting Maria to join us. I think she might have some technical problems, as happens with meetings on Teams. So she might join us in a few minutes. But if she doesn't, we have Amari on the line, and Val will also get your feedback about your experiences of the last 18 months as well. If it's okay, I'll just put a slide up just to help guide our conversation a little bit. So I'll just pull that up now to share on the screen, and hope that works okay. Okay, so that's good. I think
Yeah, you can see it.
you can see it now, which
Yes,
is great.
yeah.
Excellent. So I guess Amari and Val, we've spoken recently about what the last sort of 12 months, 18 months has been like for you guys. Amari, is it okay if we start with you about how lockdown has been? And you've been on a lot of interviews for social workers and managers
Yeah.
in the last year. So it'd be great to hear what your experience was like being on our interview panels.
Sure, can do. So I'll touch on lockdown a little bit as well to start with. So in March 2020, sort of flashing back to then last year, I'd only just recently started a new job, working at Heathrow Airport. So obviously the best place to be during the start of a global pandemic. And I was placed onto furlough, and that was obviously a good thing, have that scheme in place for the support that gave. We were at the time looking at moving into a council flat as part of Lakata, and during that time I was independently housed, but in a different project with Cass Associates, not an actual full-time sort of council apartment accommodation. Lockdown was interesting. Obviously, I think for the start of it, we were all figuring out how to best use all of our free time. But as Jacinta touched on, sort of later in the year, I was invited into the interview panel for quite a few social workers, which was a very interesting experience. It was really cool to be on the panel as the voice of a young person there, and be treated as not just sort of an addition, but actually a valued member of the panel. Taking on equal responsibilities with other members of the panel in asking a few questions, asking a few ad hoc questions as well, looking over the CV, and just generally gauging different candidates and reviewing at the end, obviously, with the other members of the panel, which was really cool experience. Touching on the second lockdown a little bit, that's when I was actually moving into my new flat. Very happy that I had something to do during the second lockdown by means of renovating this flat for the past sort of 2 weeks or so while in lockdown. It was quite fun buying a lot of furniture sight unseen because everywhere was shut, but we've done a lot of painting and decorating and putting in flooring. Very intense process to get moved in and settled in. Settled in around about the end of February, start of March, and then have slowly been enjoying the easing of lockdown and having some more freedoms back, and also nice weather recently.
Yes, that's always a plus when we have some nice weather. It puts us all in a great mood, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
really excellent, Amari. I just wonder if there's any questions for Amari, and if you want to take over, Chair.
Feel free to.
Yes, thank you, Jacinta. Right, okay, so it was really interesting to hear about your experiences, Amari, and how positive you've been throughout all of this and undertaking all that work, preparing your flat for you to move into. So I'm going to turn now to the panel. Are there any comments or questions for Amari? And can I just ask you to introduce yourself as you make a comment, because the introductions didn't happen at the outset. So any comments for Amari? Councillor Moat, thank you. Janet? I can't see Janet on my screen. Jacinta, can you just stop sharing for a second?
Yeah.
Please, let's see.
So, see if I can.
All right.
That's super.
Thank
Thank you
you.
very much. Thank you.
Right,
No,
brilliant.
because I'm on my phone at the moment, it's a bit difficult. No.
Okay, that's fine.
So I'm Councillor Janet Moat, and I'm the Shadow Portfolio Holder for Children, Families and Schools. And I just wanted to say to Murray, what a wonderful way you've explained everything that happened. And I'm so pleased that you managed to get so much decorating done. It sounds amazing. What colours did you use?
Yeah, I'm glad I managed to get it done as well. I had a thing where when I first viewed the property, it was in standard council flat Magnolia, which drove me absolutely mental. So I had to repaint the walls white. And also I had a couple of splashes of colour. I've got a nice blue in the bathroom and a nice grey in the kitchen.
Oh, that sounds lovely.
You're on mute. You're on mute again, Janet.
So I'm back again.
Okay.
I think. Am I back again?
You are, yes.
Yeah, fantastic. So, did you want to do any wallpapers or anything like that, or was it just painting? Was that all you wanted to do with the blue and that?
Yeah, I think painting was the easiest option with the sort of the time frame and skill set that I have. I think most importantly, skill set. Me trying to do wallpapering, I don't think would have ended too well.
Well, all I can say is congratulations for managing to do the painting anyway.
Thank you very much.
Wonderful.
Thank you, Janet. And Amari, what did you think of being furloughed?
It was interesting experience. All of the extensions and is it not going to continue were quite stressful, to be frank. At some points more stressful than my job itself. Actually, I only even made the furlough cutoff at the start in March by around about a week or so. If I had been employed about a week or two later, then it would have been the difference between furlough, pretty manageable wage, and universal credit, which is not the most comfortable to live on. And also I had no idea whether I was going to be furloughed at first, because my contract was a 0 hours contract provisionally while I was starting my employment with an agency. So they had no obligation to furlough us. They could have just kept us technically employed on 0 hours and not bothered with a HR worker furloughing us. So credit where it's due to my agency for doing that. Slightly less credit where it was due is they attempted to kick us all off of furlough early in February. There was quite a lot of backlash to that, and they extended until May. This was when the scheme was due to end in May. We got an interesting email saying that I've decided to extend the furlough until May, but this does not mean that if the scheme continues that we will continue it. And my company has been a bit rubbish with communications, and it actually got to the point that this month I still hadn't heard anything. The last communication said to expect a P45, and that was in February. Literally going all the way from February to June without hearing anything from your employer. And we got to the start of this month where it was a toss up between, am I about to get a P45 or am I about to get a paycheck? Thankfully, it was a paycheck this month, so I'm very glad about that. They seem to have quietly realised that it is worthwhile doing the extra HR to continue the furlough. But quite a roller coaster the whole time. Some points during the last few days before extensions, I almost felt as if I was a bit stuck in limbo, and it would have been better off to hear a definitive answer, even if it was you don't have a job now, so you get the sort of push to, you know, find other work and start a new chapter, because sometimes the limbo can be a bit challenging. I won't act like lockdown has been all swings and roses, but I like to focus on the positives of them at least. Yeah.
Excellent, thank you for that. Councillor Ramchandani.
Thanks, Chair.
Hi, Amari. I'm Councillor Kiran Ramchandani, and I'm new to this panel. This is my first meeting, so apologies if my questions are a little bit basic, but thank you for sharing your experiences with us. And yeah, your employer sounds terrible, so sorry you've had to go through that experience. Not all employers are that great, unfortunately. I was just wondering generally how much interaction and support you have with the council, and if whether there are any gaps that you can see, and basically is there stuff that we could be doing better?
Yeah, absolutely. So all through lockdown, I was still in regular touch with my social worker. They were absolutely brilliant in support during that period of time, because I was in like I said, I was in a sort of a precursor to the Lukata scheme, just to assess whether sort of my independent living skills, where I was in a studio apartment, just as kind of a proof to both to myself and to you know, to the social worker, the independent living was a good idea to go forward with. Obviously that got turned up on its head a little bit once lockdown came in, because it went from being a studio apartment where, you know, you sleep and go to work, to a single room that you're expected to be in for months on end, which was quite difficult. But communication was kept up the entire time. It seemed like everyone springed into action over lockdown. And any time that I have had an issue, I've always known who I can go to. Especially since I also, during that independent living sort of trial, there was a secondary support worker through CAS Associates. So I had sort of two branches that I could go down and 2 points of contact. Moving on to sort of later in the year, and once we got to know Jacinta a little bit better on during these interview panels, I've always felt like I can go to her if I have any pressing issues as well, which is absolutely fantastic. I'm just trying to think. There is a bit of a period of time where my social worker has gone on maternity leave recently, which is absolutely great news. I'm like so glad for her. And there's been a little bit of a downtime between social workers, but even during that downtime, I've known clearly who I can go to if I need some kind of support urgently. And I do have additional support available to me by, you'll have to forgive me, there's so many names to remember. I believe it's Centrepoint. So yeah, definitely been a lot of people that I can talk to if need be. I actually found out today that my new social worker, I'd known their name for a while, but I hadn't actually touched base with them yet. And I realized today that my new social worker is actually my support worker from CAS Associates when I was independent living. They've changed jobs. And I didn't clock it, because their name that I called them by was a shortened version of their name that I got through recently. So that was quite a surprise today. So yeah, we're hoping to have a meet up tomorrow. It's nice to get back to face-to-face stuff.
Yeah, totally. Thank you very much for that, Amari. Thank you.
No worries.
And we look forward to sort of hearing positive things from you, and of course we want to hear the negatives as well, because that's how we improve. Okay, so we'll move on now to Val.
Hello.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Val, you've just managed to put yourself on mute again.
Oh,
yeah, that's better.
Is that better?
Yeah.
Can you hear me now? Right. No, I mean, I've really enjoyed lockdown, to be honest. It's been lovely. It's a really nice slow pace of life. I mean, spending so much time with the children. I mean, I think, you know, looking after the children, like pre-lockdown, you always just felt like you was like a hamster on a wheel, just like running here, running there, dropping to school, picking up, doing homework, cooking, cleaning. Really didn't get to spend much time with the children because they was always busy and doing their like after school clubs that they chose to do. And like you'd say, how was school? And they'd be like, you know what? And then you'd say, okay, what did you learn in maths? Oh, not much, same old stuff, maybe fractions. You might get a few words. but actually being home in lockdown when they was doing their work, it was really good because they'd have like discussions on what they were doing. I mean, we were the only humans they could talk to, so it was actually to an advantage. But you know, we got to learn what they was doing, and they actually benefited from like the one-to-one. I mean, Ellie's gone back into school like after Easter with the end of year exams, and I mean through Easter she was doing lots of revision, lots of catch up, and she walked out there saying, you know, I think I done really well. I'm so glad I done that. I mean, because you couldn't go anywhere at Easter because we're still in like the semi-lockdown. So, and she obviously, you know, I guided her to, you know, try to use this time for revision, and she come out and said, I done really well, I aced that one. And you know, her whole self-esteem went like right up, and I think it was just having that time and just being able to like talk. I mean, I just considered it a bit of a holiday really, but just a holiday at home. I mean, we done daily walks. I mean, their schooling was like the first lockdown, like when it came on all of a sudden, it was very much like they was just sent work and then they completed it online and sent it back. So they were finished like, you know, earlier than maybe a normal school day, but it was really warm back then in that summer. So again, we enjoyed the sun, the garden, the dog walks and things like that. Second time in lockdown, the school had really nailed it. I mean, they were logging on at 8:45 in the morning. So they'd get up early, they'd have a cooked breakfast, they'd just chill, they'd go to their laptops, they'd work from 8:45 till 9:40, they'd have a half an hour break. Then they'd work till about 12:40, and then we'd have an hour break where we'd take some exercise, and then they'd tend to eat lunch at their computer, and then after that they'd do homework. And school finished at 3:15, so it's a full school day. There was lots of live lessons, lots of interactive, even breakout times. They could talk with their friends throughout the school day on sort of subjects they worked together. So I mean, you know, Noah Hill done really well on their school days. So the children really didn't feel that there was many gaps. And so obviously when they went back to school, they wasn't as keen to go back. They had to get up earlier. Then you had the drive. And then it was like, you know, obviously no cooked breakfasts really, because it was just too early. They didn't really want that sort of amount of food. And then when they was in class, the windows were open and it was a little bit nippy when they first went back, to say the least, obviously wearing masks, and they had to eat outside, whatever the weather. So like, I think, you know, it was like a bit of a like, oh, but no, to be fair with that, but that aside, I mean, they have got back into school life, and it was lovely for them to see their friends. And obviously, like everybody now, we promote, you know, keeping safe, keeping distant. But I mean, I thoroughly enjoyed lockdown. I really did. I mean, we have had a few meetings. We have had some face-to-face with the social worker, so that was really nice.
Brilliant.
And their contact was good. Lots of phone contact from mum, and lots of FaceTime contact and phone contact from dad. So that you know, they didn't like lose touch. I mean, we, you know, avidly promoted that anyway.
Excellent. That is really good to hear. Really positive feedback on how you had more time with the children and the children had more time with you. And before we started recording, Ellie was saying how much better her grades were, wasn't she? And
yeah, no, she
was fantastic.
Yeah, they had lots of one-to-one there and no distractions, and you know, I mean, it really was a school day. So it was good, and we, you know, we were around if they needed any support or help. So it was good.
That's brilliant. Thank you very much for that. Any questions from the panel for Val? Val, did you introduce yourself and say who you are? Because I don't think everyone will know.
Okay, I'm Val Griffin. I'm a foster carer for Harrow. I've been a foster carer for Harrow for over 20 years, and yeah, I think I've fostered about over 70 children in my history, and I've got 2 long-term placements at the moment.
Amazing, absolutely brilliant. Thank you very much for that. And Councillor Janet Motes.
That's lovely. Thank you very much for that, Val. It was absolutely super. And I've known you for so many years, it's untrue. It was 20 years and you've been fostering, so it was absolutely fabulous. And I know you do such a wonderful job, and you have given such a positive spin on the lockdown, and I'm thrilled that it's worked out so well, you know, and I'm sure the children got to know you so well and you got to know them, whereas, as you said, sometimes you don't have that kind of contact, do you? You know, when they go out and go to school and whatever. And I just wondered about your how you're doing with your education and how you've managed to help them during that time. Have you advanced as well?
I think they've taught me a thing or two, yes. It's
Lovely, Val. Thank you so much. It was lovely to see you and lovely to hear about everything you've done. That's super. Thanks very much. Thank you.
Absolutely, I totally agree with that. Thank you very much, Janet. Anyone else? If not, once again, thank you to Val and to Omari. And we will now move on to the next point in our meeting. So if Omari wants to go, I don't know, Jacinta.
Amari, you're welcome. You're welcome to stay. I know we've I've talked you through a little bit of the agenda for this evening, so you're very welcome to stay for as long as you like for the whole meeting, or you can leave now. It's up to you.
I'll stick around for a little bit. I might have to quietly drop out at some point.
Excellent.
Yeah,
excellent. And let us know sort of what we can do to improve things as we go along, Omari. So moving on now to item 8 on the agenda, I'm going to hand over to Peter and Jacinta to give an update on the performance of Corporate Parenting Service.
Okay, excellent. So since I last gave a PowerPoint presentation, I think it's changed a little bit on Teams. So as I think as Paul Hewitt often says, progress, not perfection. So my slides probably progress, not perfection. I think some of them might be really small on the screen. So apologies in advance for that. And hopefully you've received a copy of the slides prior to the meeting this evening, so you've been able to see them in a kind of larger font. So there are some that might be a little bit small. So I'm the head of service for corporate parenting for the new members to the panel. It's nice to see some new faces and some really great questions and good challenges too from members. So thanks for that. So this evening, we've already spoken about some experiences of foster carers and care leavers over the past 18 months. So what I'm going to be doing is talking about our performance, what we're doing in terms of tackling disproportionality, a little bit about what we're doing in terms of addressing our high numbers of NEET young people, so not in education, employment and training. Some good news about our care leavers local offer and the update around that. I'll give you a little update about the West London Fostering Project, which we're now a part of, and of course EU settled status. So the 30th of June is the deadline for that. Okay, so we've got the performance scorecard here, which I'm sure is going to be very small on the screen. The key parts of this really to look at are the areas, and I'm not sure if you can see my mouse. Can you see my cursor? If I move it around, maybe not. That's okay. So the parts that you can see, I guess the colours really. So you're looking at the red, amber, green of the scorecard because you might struggle to see what's actually written there. So really overall our performance in corporate parenting is looking great. We were looking really good at our last corporate parenting panel, and we've improved in some of those areas. The areas that I guess are particular for scrutiny and for development are those that are in red. So it's row 6, the percentage of care leavers not in education, employment or training. So that's where we're not performing as well as we were in previous years. And we spoke about that last panel. Largely this is due to the impact of COVID, particularly on employment opportunities for young people. And we know that young people are disproportionately affected by job losses from lockdown. What we're hoping, not just by luck, but also by design, is that we will see improvements in our NEET numbers. But we know that there are lots more job opportunities opening up nationally at the moment. So we're hoping and doing lots of activities and engagement work to make sure that we improve our NEET numbers, and I'll talk to you about that in a moment. Also, row 7, we spoke about dental checks last time for the last quarter as well. Again, this is something that's been impacted by the pandemic. So you can see, well, you may be able to see for the Q4 column, our performance has improved, as I assured you it would from last corporate parenting panel. So when I last presented this information, 49.6% of Harrow children who were looked after had a dental check in the past rolling year. We are now up to 68.9%. It's still lower than we want it to be and lower than it should be, but we're making good progress on that, and that's largely because of closures during lockdown and dentists not being available to see children. So we're improving on that, and we should continue to improve on that. And I expect we will see more progress by the next corporate parenting panel later this year. And then I guess the row 11 is the other area where our performance is not where we would like it to be, or where our target is. So this is percentage of children looked after who are placed more than 20 miles away from home. And that's a performance indicator for us, because as corporate parents, we want to have children placed as close to their home address as possible under most circumstances. So that's so they can continue attending school, they have their social networks, their family networks, their support networks, they're closer to social workers, we can access services and get services involved that we know. So it also helps with placement stability a lot of the time. Our target is 20%, only 20% of children are placed 20 miles or more away from Harrow. For the end of last financial year, the last quarter, our percentage of children placed rather than 20 miles was 23%. So it's a small increase in really sort of, we're talking maybe 2 actual children due to our low numbers of children looked after, but that's based on the needs of those individual children. So when we place children that far away, it's usually due to the risk that's posed in the local area or in the Northwest London area, so around contextual safeguarding and child criminal or child sexual exploitation. So while that's above what we would like it to be, it's based on the needs of those individual children. Okay, talking about NEET, so we have 2 organisations or teams that we tap into in particular to address our NEET numbers. So we have Prospects, who are commissioned to support care leavers up to the age of 19, and Excite, of course, who work with young people 18 and above. They've got some great programs happening at the moment. The one I'm particularly interested in as a chicken lover and a former employee of KFC as my student job, there's a Nando's 3-day program called Fuel Your Future. And at the end of that 3-day program, young people are guaranteed an interview with Nando's. So that's looking really positive. There's also other programs that they've got going, the Kickstart program, New Year, New You, their Pathway to Apprenticeship program, and we've just had Prospects deliver training to the Children Looked After and Leaving Care team as well. So we're looking really closely at the young people who aren't in education, employment and training, and we're developing plans for each of those young people to get back into training or employment. And it's a huge priority for us this year and all years, frankly, but this one in particular, given what's happened with the pandemic. So the next slide is around our efforts to tackle disproportionality. It's probably a little bit difficult to see on the screen, but really this is I guess the very beginning of us now looking at ethnicity data in children's social care and reporting that into the corporate parenting panel. So we look at this usually in terms of what we do as heads of service and divisional directors, and this is something we look at internally, but now I think it's important that we present this data to corporate parenting panel. And the key headlines really are that Black children are overrepresented across all areas of children's social care. And we also heard from Mark Scanlon, the last corporate parenting panel from the Youth Justice Service, and Black children are also overrepresented in the Youth Justice Service, which is common to, I think, most, if not all, local authorities nationally as well, unfortunately. For Harrow, Asian children are underrepresented, as are white children. And what we're looking at with the performance team, with David and Deepika, is developing key performance indicators and a data set on disproportionalities, but also looking at the outcomes and impact for children. So this scorecard at the moment really just tells us about the contacts, the open cases, referrals, whether a child is open to a child in need plan, a child protection plan, whether they're looked after, whether they're care leavers, and whether they've been adopted. What it doesn't tell us is what's the impact for that child or young person, which is important as well, not just raw numbers. And the other thing I guess you might notice is on the bottom left of your screen is other. So the way that we record information about ethnicity suggests that we record our information differently to schools in Harrow. So there's some work that we need to do to have a consistent approach to how we record people's ethnicity, and that could be because we base it on how people self-report to us versus perhaps how schools are reporting it, or vice versa. So there's a bit of a data health warning that comes with our statistics there, but it's something that we're looking at and something that we'll be reporting now as a matter of course for every corporate parenting panel in the future. Okay, I guess the next headline update from me is around our care leaver local offer refresh. And this is a care leaver local offer, as you might know, is something that's required under law, under the Children and Social Work Act. And based on conversations I've had with young people and some groups we've run on Zoom with young people to seek their feedback, as well as benchmarking with other local authorities nationally, we've made a couple of key changes to our local offer. And one of the most important changes for young people that will have a significant impact on their lives is around the council tax exemption until the age of 24 for care leavers, and that brings Harrow in line with other local authorities nationally. And we will have the local offer published online shortly, so we're just in the process of finalising the graphic design for the local offer. Amari, I'll come to you at the end if that's okay.
No worries.
Okay, then we've got the other update, 2 more to go. So there's the West London Fostering Project. So Harrow, Brent and Ealing are part of this project, which is really targeted at improving placement efficiency, particularly for teenage carers, which is where we have our greatest need, is caring for adolescents. And we've really just started becoming part of this project in the last couple of months, and we're looking to add value to our existing in-house provision. And there'll be working groups involving marketing and recruitment, training and development of foster carers and staff, support for carers, and sharing learning from the challenges of COVID-19. So there'll be a number of forums for both foster carers and for supervising social workers and managers across the 3 boroughs to share learning and information. And finally, an update about EU settled status. So as I said before, the deadline is the 30th of June. We've been working really closely with the Home Office and the Coram Children's Legal Centre, and we have a weekly report on how we're going with the EU settled status for children and young people who are looked after or care leavers. So we've made a lot of progress. the headline is really there are 30 children and young people we've identified who are eligible to apply for EU settled status. All except 5 have made applications with our support. There are some difficulties for us in making applications where we don't have parental responsibility for children. We have done 6 applications for those children though, so there's just one child where we're still pushing for that. And for some care leavers, it's difficult for us to make applications where we're not getting cooperation from care leavers, or they might be putting us off our attempts to do that. So it's very few young people that applies for, but we've made a lot of progress, and we're I guess 3 weeks away from deadline now. We'll continue to push that. So that's everything from me. Amari, do you want to jump in or Chair, sorry, if you want to.
Okay, thank you very much for that presentation, Jacinta. I'll come to you in a second, Amari, because I know that you've got a lot to contribute. So a great deal there. We've heard about what's happening with need to have questions myself on that. Comparing the demographics, it's looking at sort of disproportionality in the care system, and I'm really pleased to see that you've made a start on that work, because we know that although the overall population, 3% of the population is Black, as adults, the disproportionality in the criminal justice system is absolutely horrendous. And the sooner we can disrupt that chain from school to prison, the better. And I'm really pleased to see that work is beginning on that. I had a question about the NEET situation. Do I understand it that we support or care leavers up to the age of 25? Yeah, so it's interesting that the data referred to young people aged 19 to 21. Do we have any information on young people who are still NEET outside, above the 21 age group up to 25, and sort of, if so, sort of what are we doing? What provisions are we making to help them? I've got other questions, but I don't want to dominate.
Sure. So in terms of the NEET question, in some ways we have that information. We're only required to report on the 19 to 21-year-olds to the DFE, so that's why that's in our scorecard. Okay. So we do support young people up to the age of 25, and that's based on their choice as adults, if they wish to remain open to us or they wish to come back for a service. So in terms of reporting on over 21-year-olds, it's a little bit more problematic, because there are some young people who will say, I don't want a service from you anymore. So we won't know necessarily where they've gone, but we do for 19 to 21-year-olds, and we have that keeping in touch data that we report on, if they're in education, employment, the suitability of their accommodation, and whether we are in contact with them as a service.
Right, but services provided for those who are over 21 who will engage with it.
Yes, if they wish us to have a service, then we'll provide that. Yep.
Excellent, thank you. Amari, you've waited a very long time. Off you go.
Yeah, I just wanted to jump in and say that the council tax news on the I'm blanking on the word now.
The local
council tax, yeah, not needing to pay until 25 is very welcome news to me. It was particularly recent news to me, and it's definitely going to go a long way. I mean, council tax is not a insignificant amount, especially spread over 5 years period. You know, that's you know, getting pretty close to, if not over £5,000. That could make a decent chunk in a successful bid to right to buy on my property or something like that in 5 years time. I definitely plan to set aside the money that I would have had to pay for council tax into a savings account, and use it for something meaningful in a few years' time. So yeah, absolutely awesome to hear.
It's brilliant. Yes, and there was another young person who's not here today who was really appreciative of that as well. So good, that's really good news. Right, so I've got Councillor Sue Anderson. You've got your hand up.
I have, but it's a really straightforward question. It's to do with the NEETs, because obviously that's an area where a lot of support is needed, because clearly COVID has had a really deleterious effect on that. I was just wondering if any of the young people use the service that Spear provide.
I am not familiar, I don't believe.
Yes, we do use Spear as well, and I'm sure they've attended one of the team meetings recently. Melina, I don't know if you wanted to, if you got any detail about that, but I am confident we access Spear.
Not specifically around Spear, but we've got lots of organisations that we work with. I mean, more than I can count, that support and work with and look at provisions for our children or young people that are at risk of becoming NEET. Yeah, so we could get some more information to you, but at this point, you know, and other organisations as well.
We had,
okay.
I just did a quick check of my emails. We had Tembi from Spear come and speak to the team in April, so we are linked in with them.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's good. Right. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Thanks very much. And Councillor Moat.
Thank you, Chair. That's lovely. One of the things I was concerned about was the dental checks, because I know at the last meeting we had the dentists that were charging to see the children, and I wondered if that was resolved. Thank you.
I'm sorry, I just had to use the right mouse to take myself off mute. I think it has been resolved to a great extent in terms of challenging any dentists who say that we need to pay for children who are looked after to have medical checks. And it's something we'll be doing another manual trawl of the children who haven't been seen in the last 12 months, just to check what the status is for those children and young people. So it's kind of a continuous process of our monthly management information reports and checking for those individual young people if they've had their dental check and what the delays and issues are, and we can challenge that with our colleagues in health as well, which is really helpful.
That's lovely. Thank you, Chair.
All right, thank you. Right, Peter.
I just want to make a quick point about the local offer. Is that and thank Jacinta for all the hard work in leading this, but it was a co-produced piece of work with young people, and that's what we're very proud of. That it's something we've done with young people, not to them. And I think Amari's feedback and other young people is really good to hear, that we are hitting the right note really, and we are hitting the key issues here. But it is a very significant moment that we've updated this and that we've worked with young people to do this, and that they already are being very positive about the impact on their lives. So I just wanted to make sure that was emphasised really. Thank you.
Excellent. That's brilliant. Well done. Thank you very much for that. Just one other thing. How are we doing in terms of stability of our foster carers in respect of the West London fostering project? So that's one question. And just going back to NEET a little bit, how are Prospects and Excite performing in terms of looking after all young people? The two separate points.
No problem. So in terms of fostering, we'll have Monica Bridgman, fostering team manager, present a report to the next corporate parenting panel. And we've continued to have fostering panels throughout the last 18 months, and we've had new foster carers approved. We had one approved last week, who Monica is really positive about and has some great experience that we think will be excellent for the fostering team. So I think our numbers have roughly remained the same. I think the biggest issue for the fostering team is having foster carers who are able to care for adolescents, particularly the adolescents who are coming into care at a later age, usually particularly due to exploitation issues, which requires us, a particular skill set and resilience from carers to be able to manage that and feel safe when children are going missing, when police regular liaison with police, and police might come to carers' house at 2 a.m. to look for a child. So there's lots of pressure on carers to actually provide that care for young people who are exploited. So this is the fostering project we really hope will help us to develop in that area. We've got a really stable and amazing cohort of foster carers who've like Val, but there are many others like Val. So we're very fortunate, and I think we've got a very stable team of both staff and carers, and I think they will have some great ideas to share with the project, which we can also help neighbouring boroughs with how Harrow has supported carers and been creative with their skills. So we can share some of our ideas, I think.
Thank you. That's excellent. So if there are no further questions on Dr. Lewinson, I see he's got your hand up. So you're muted. You're on mute.
Sorry,
You're muted.
Just out of interest, how many foster carers have you actually got, or do you need?
I think, well, we've approximately got 60 fostering households. I would need to do a quick check to tell you how many placements that equates to. Of course, it's a bit of a moving feast, because as you place children, a foster carer might be approved to care for 3 children if they're a sibling group, and we might place 1 child there. So then we might not be able to place 2 other children, or we place 2 children and we can't place a 3rd. So we've got roughly 60 fostering households, but we'll cover all of that in detail with an annual report from the fostering service for next corporate parenting panel.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I recommend that the report be noted, and we'll move on now to item 9, which is an update on the virtual school. And if I can ask Melina to present the report. Don't forget to introduce yourselves.
Hi. Hello, everyone. Thank you, Chair. I'm Melina Williamson-Taylor. I'm the head of the virtual school. I'm just waiting for my PowerPoint to open up. But whilst it's doing that, it's been absolutely a fantastic start to the year. Well, let's look at post-lockdown. As Val said, it can be a little bit difficult getting children back into a new routine, but our attendance has been up, I think it's on the next slide, up to about 90% for this summer alone. So that's really been absolutely fantastic. So just going into, where we're at, our pet returns remain at 100%, and that's credit to our schools and our social workers and the children as well. And that does help us do what we need to do, i.e. that's monitoring their education, monitoring their attendance, and looking for anomalies and putting the interventions in where it's needed. So that's been really helpful. The target setting around that has been very strong as well, because obviously we don't want drift and delay where our children are concerned in terms of their education. So we want to make sure those targets are right and that they are making good progress. So we have approximately 111 pupils on our roll at the moment. As you know, our population is very fluid. We've also put in place, and it's ongoing support, as something that I feel quite passionately about as a virtual school head, is the mental health of our children. This is obviously before lockdown and before COVID, and we have approximately 33% of our children that have been identified as having social, emotional and health difficulties. We use the SDQs, the strength and difficulty scoring. And children that score above 17, they're the ones that we refer to our clinical psychologists for ongoing monitoring and support. And that's support across the board. It's not just necessarily for the child, but it's with the foster placement and schools as well, so that they know how to support children. I believe I mentioned last time that our enrichment programmes have been strengthened, and I'm going to invite Kat, who's the head of our post-16, to talk a little bit about our enrichment across lockdown and post-lockdown. But one of the key messages there is that we've been able to broaden the reach, and we've had more children outside of Harrow being able to take part. The laptops, as you're aware, we were really pretty much off the mark for the first lockdown and getting laptops to children. Val, I think you even got 2 lots, and we were so eager. But we're now at a point where children, they're breaking down, or there are IT issues with the laptops. So we're in a period of where we're now looking at support for families, for foster families, and getting laptops repaired. So that's a piece of work that we're looking quite seriously into. So in terms of recovery, we have upped our one-to-one tuition because there's been a greater need in terms of supporting children that have missed education or have become disengaged. We're looking towards the summer. One of the things that we're doing, one of many things, is a summer camp for our children where English is not their first language. And we're also looking at summer camp for our children in Key Stage 3 as well. The final point on this slide is support with transitions. We recognise that transitions in terms of the way we would know them in the traditional sense of children or young people identifying their next provision, i.e. going on to college, a number of our year 11s have not had the opportunity to visit their college beforehand, have a taster day, have a look around. And we're aware, I mean, particularly this has been highlighted to myself around our post-16s, that we will need to put a lot more support for our year 12s, certainly during the first few weeks of college. I've also been aware that children, I don't think it happened this time, but again, equally children leaving primary school have not been able to view their secondary schools. And I know a number of schools have got initiatives right in the middle of the year where they've said, look, let's do a tour of the school because we appreciate it that you've not seen half of the building, you've not seen half the staff. So lots of work that schools are doing with our support to ensure that children feel settled and that they're ready to engage in their learning. So as I mentioned earlier, we've had a good attendance, and this is summer term I'm looking at in terms of the attendance. Where it's a little bit weak, it is around Key Stage 4. And that's something we're working very hard with our schools and students and carers, social workers, to see if we can raise that. We've had no permanent exclusions. That doesn't mean that schools have not tried, but we've worked very hard as a virtual school to avoid schools and look at alternative solutions to an exclusion. For example, looking at the range of alternative learning provisions that we have at our disposal. So 5% of pupils have had a suspension. I hope you've noted the new terminology that we've now moved away from fixed term exclusions. So if you see a suspension, that's what it is. It's the old fixed term exclusion. So children haven't been in schools much, so we would expect our fixed term exclusions to be relatively low, and they currently are, and we'll continue to keep that number down. So end of Key Stage predictions. The thing to note here, it is predictions. We at this point, until we get the final scores, we're not able to make a firm judgment. But the picture so far, again, via our PET process and discussions with schools and our monitoring and scrutiny process, this is where our Key Stage 2 pupils are at. Note there are only 3 children in this cohort, so just on the side of caution there with those percentages. Key Stage 4, we have managed across the years where we've had small cohorts of children expected to get 5 or 8 or more GCSEs, good GCSEs, i.e. grades 4 and above. We've kept those children, if you like, stable. They haven't regressed. We've managed to see them across the year to ensure that they achieve those results. Where we have, if you like, a challenge in terms of our support for our children at attainment in Key Stage 4 rather, the numbers of children receiving good GCSEs or equivalent. We don't have enough children achieving level 2 or equivalent GCSEs, and that's something that we're looking at quite seriously. And one of the things that we're doing is reviewing the support at Key Stage 3. We recognise the signs professionals. We know where children start to show signs of disengagement. Usually it's brought up at a PET where there are more behaviour points than usual. Maybe we've got children that have had a fixed term or rather a suspension. And one of the things that we will be looking at going forward is reviewing the programme on offer for Key Stage 3. It is about the early intervention. It is about stabilising their education, as well as, we've got a few challenges, as Jacinta has mentioned, regarding placements. So that again affects us in terms of stabilising the education for a number of our students. So I'll leave that there. I'm going to invite, I'm not sure if, Sarah had anything to comment on the results. If not, I'll ask Kat just to talk about the enrichment briefly.
I think I was just going to comment a little bit on our Key Stage 2 results, just that even though it's small numbers, the pupils have done exceptionally well. I mean, the one that achieved greater depth in reading had very limited reading when they started at school. So the fact that she has now attained greater depth or will be attaining greater depth is phenomenal. And the child, our numbers are quite low in maths, as I'm sure you've seen, although like we said, it's out of 3 pupils, but that child has in that cohort, one of them is on P levels, and one of them has dyscalculus, so they find maths quite difficult, and they're having lots of support to try and boost them up for year 7. But I just want to give a bit of background on that.
Okay, thanks very much for that. Kat, can you just remind those of you who don't know who you are?
Oh, sorry, I'm Sarah Moriarty. I'm the assistant head teacher for Harrow Virtual School.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks very much.
And I want to talk about enrichment. So I'm Catherine, or Kat for short, and I'm the head of Post 16. So in terms of the enrichment programme, as Melina was saying, it has expanded a lot. And one of the perks of the lockdown has been using Teams and virtual communication to get our young people that can live a bit further away or weren't able to attend for other reasons to be able to attend in online sessions. So we've got a monthly reading club, which has been amazing. We've got 3 different groups from primary to secondary ages, where they get sent a book each month, they read it like a book club, and then we come together on Teams and have discussions and fun activities. And that is very like student led, so the young people have taken ownership over their teams and their groups. They recommend the books that they would like to read, especially the older students, recommending books for the younger groups to read, things that they might have read previously. So it's, we try and make it as collaborative as possible and quite fun. We do appreciate that a lot of the young people get a bit sick of screen time, especially when they had online lessons, but a lot of our CLA cohort were able to go into school while they were open during the lockdown. So it's kind of been a good mix for them, so it's not too overwhelming. And similarly, there's a monthly, a philosophy club, which has been weekly. So lots of debate, talking about a range of political issues, as well as just general and random things, some funny kind of would you rather this or that, and getting some strong opinions out of our young people, which is quite interesting when I kind of joined in one to hear what the students were talking about. It's really nice because it engages some of our younger primary students in debating, which leads on to some of the other activities that they can get involved in when they're a bit older as well. We Belong is an arts-based activity, so we wanted to try and have a creative enrichment activity because it is difficult to do that online. So A New Direction have ran over the Easter holidays their sessions, and they also over the half-term break did an additional 2 days, which was really great. And the young people created poems, they created magazines and graphic novels and lots of other interesting things, which is really, really amazing work they've made. Harrow School, we've spoken about a lot, and our great partnership with them. So they have continued to offer one-to-one tuition, so their teachers volunteering their time to offer tuition for our CLA students. That has been amazing and has really, we've seen the progress in terms of attainment, but also the confidence in our students in feeling like there's an extra person outside of their social worker and their carer that really is, you know, championing them and wanting them to succeed. So Harrow School have partnered with other independent schools and including primary schools to offer tuition from reading for our primary students through to GCSE, A-level, ESOL, functional skills, lots of different support. And that project is continuing to expand, and they're really keen for the next academic year to continue that as well, which is great news because it can be difficult to sometimes engage some of the older students in tuition. So when they do get a good report with a tutor, I think knowing that this teacher is also giving up their time does make them appreciate it as well. It's not just kind of an agency tutor, although we do have great tuition from agencies that we use as well. It's nice that we can use our partnership with the independent schools to add to that. Phoenix is an outdoor activity, so like kayaking, orienteering. There was a session on Saturday, on the weekend just gone, which the reports are really fantastic about the young people getting involved in lots of incredible activities. So there's another session at the end of July for some of the older students in Key Stage 4 or Key Stage 3 and 4. And there will be a Year 6 transition activity that we held last year as well. So for our Year 6s transitioning to Year 7, there's activities to help prepare them, such as kind of, you know, preparing for Year 7, going into high school and what that would be like, as well as social interaction, having some fun with other children. And Orley Farm is one of the schools that Harrow School have partnered with in terms of the tuition, and their teachers have really enjoyed working with our primary students and have decided that they want to do something in person. So they're going to do an activity day for our primary children, which is coming up soon, which would be amazing for them to actually meet in life, in face to face. So that's brilliant that they're able to do that. And ESOL Summer School, Melanie mentioned, for our older young people with English as an additional language, as well as the Arvon trip for our Year 11s and 12s to go away into Yorkshire, into the countryside for a week, which should be nice in the summer holidays. The pictures on the slide are from equine therapy that we had previously, so that's going to continue again this year, as well as other activities with opera singing at Holland Park, the Chelsea Physic Gardens, which is more nature-based and getting out into green spaces. And Care to Dance is dance sessions that starting in September that are actually run by social workers that have volunteered and made a business to bring dance to young people in care. So that's actually going to be in, I forget her name, it's a lady that's on Strictly Come Dancing. She's got a dance studio in West London, so we're hoping that she'll pop along as well for one of the sessions. So there's a long programme of enrichment activities, but that's just the ones that we have arranged at the moment, and there's more to come.
Kat, thank you so much for summarising our our lengthy programme of activities, and the virtual school team are heavily involved in this. You know, we will go away for weekly trips with children to, you know, Arvon, and we'll go do the day trips as well, and we're present on all online programmes as well. So I'm just going to move on to our final slide. Obviously, I'm not going to go through this in a lot of detail, but clearly there is a lot of work to be done in terms of supporting Key Stage 4 children get the results that we want them to. We want them to get to have an attainment 8 average of 21 or above. As I said earlier, we believe that involves work much earlier on in the school, so we're reviewing the interventions currently in place. One of the things that we are doing is going to provide a learning mentor to focus on the children. Again, I'm not particularly keen on this phrase, but children that find it hard to engage with learning for one reason or another, we want to catch them early so that we make sure that they're on track to get those 8 GCSEs. Again, we're aware, I've looked at the data in terms of disproportionality, in terms of our Black and Asian children, particularly it's our boys that tend to have a suspension. We are looking, obviously we work with schools across London and beyond, so we're looking at support and again using the learning mentor to work with these groups and other groups so that we're doing some more preventative work than being reactive. I think everything on that slide is pretty clear, so I won't say anything else at this point and hand back to our chair. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Melina and team, for that excellent report. So priorities clearly identified. When I first read this report, I was so impressed with the extent of your activities, your activity program for all young people, and particularly in view of the fact that sort of COVID is still happening, the effect that has had on sort of young people's mental health, adults as well. But it was absolutely encouraging to see sort of how many enrichment activities there were. So really well done for that. Also, I just wanted to comment on the attendance. To get students up to 90% is absolutely amazing. So if we can get them to up to 95%, we're all aware of the effect that will have on attainment. So, you know, I'm glad to see that sort of you're making progress in terms of working to increase the attendance up to 95. That would be absolutely amazing. And the attainment 8 scores, really, really encouraging. We all know that feeds quite nicely into Progress 8. So it's absolutely fantastic to see what you're doing. And the recognition that if we are going to sort of change or improve the outcome for Key Stage 4 and beyond, we really need to be looking at intervening Key Stage 3, the end of Year 8 and so on, because they start, if you've ever worked in a school, you will know that after Year 8 is when sort of things start to take a nosedive, and it's really important to catch them then. And the recognition of that is absolutely amazing. So I'm talking quite a lot. Any contributions from anyone else? No? Okay, so, all right. Councillor Moat.
Thank you. I just wanted to say, well done, Melina, with your team of Sarah and Kath. Where I can't believe how you've progressed so much, and you all need a round of applause. Absolutely fantastic. And just a couple of things that I picked up on, first of all, was the PEPs returns 100%. My goodness, I know how difficult it was to get those PEPs up to 100%, Melina. Absolutely amazing. And another commendation is the low suspensions. Again, absolutely super. Sarah working very hard with the Key Stage 2. And for the enrichment, my goodness me, the activities, what a choice to choose from. I mean, just amazing, all those experiences for our children. Absolutely fantastic. And then I'm quite agree with the early intervention in education, which is so important, so important. So all I wanted to say was fantastic, and you have come such a long way over the years. Absolutely amazing. So well done. You need a pat on the back.
Thank you.
Absolutely, I totally agree. And if I can add to you also identifying the priority of Black and Asian boys, and recognizing that still, more work needs to be done with them, and that you will be intervening. That just ties in with sort of the disproportionality data that we heard from Jacinta earlier on, and it's to be commended. It really is. Certainly compared to when I started chairing this panel, the discrepancy data and so on, a huge improvement has happened over this period of time. And as Janet has said, it's all down to you, Melina, and your team. So well done. And we know that there are challenges there, and we recognise that you are working on those challenges. So thank you.
Thank you.
If there are no further questions or comments, I recommend that the report be noted, and we move on to item 10 now on the agenda, and that's the update and performance on the health. This is a health report, I think. This is supposed to be that. So I'll hand over to Christine to present the report.
Hi, I'm Laurie Ward, and I'm the specialist nurse for children looked after. I'm doing this on behalf of Christine, who sends her apologies today. I don't know. I'm not very good with. I'm having a bit of a problem with my computer at the moment. So is it okay if I just talk you through the report, because you've all seen it, unless somebody else can get it on for me?
I can probably share it, Laurie. So you start talking and I'll try and put it on screen.
Okay. Our key performance indicators for Harrow are set by Harrow CCG and Harrow Council. For the initial health assessments, it's to complete 100% of the CLA initial health assessments within 20 operational days, 28 calendar days, and review health assessments is to complete the 100% of CLA review health assessments to be completed on time. In order to do that, we ask the social workers to send us the health assessments 3 months ahead, because some of those health assessments are going to be done by our colleagues out of borough. So that sometimes, they need to be fitted into a clinic. Our other specifications are to assist London Borough of Harrow to record and report dates of dental checks following the health assessment, to update the immunisation status for every child that we see, make sure they've got a GP registration, and also record and report dates of the optician checks. Now, we have got some exceptions around this, and that's for young people who refuse, children who are missing or are not attending, out of area children, notifications from Harrow that come in later than 3 months before the review date, and late requests, and they're taken from the statutory guidance requirements. You'll be pleased to hear that in January, February and March, we actually had 100% for all IHAs and all RHAs, whether they came into us slightly late or not, we still managed to get them done for those 3 months. All the health assessments, they're usually completed face to face, but obviously with COVID, things had to change slightly. So what we usually do is offer a face to face now. We've come out of lockdown, so we offer a face to face, or we'll do it virtually or by telephone. And actually, most of ours now are being done face to face, and we'll either bring them into the clinic or we're going out to children's homes. A lot of children are actually saying that they prefer it virtually, and I think that's because they don't actually have to leave their rooms. you know, so some of them are probably in their beds still doing it, but we still managed to speak to them. Some of them I've gone on and done Zoom, but actually they won't put the video on, so actually we've done that. And Val knows that her children actually wanted to be done by Zoom, so we did that. And all children have been asked how they've managed during the pandemic and their views. And again, I was interested to hear what Val was saying, because I knew her views on that and I knew the children's views, but also that's been particularly true, I would say, for most of the children that that maybe got ADHD or ASD. A lot of those are not having patterns disrupted, so they're actually there in their rooms and in their houses, and they feel much more secure. So actually, we've also, I would say, on the whole, got fairly good responses, and we've also managed to see some of the children virtually by Zoom as well. So some of the ones that have been out of borough that the other teams haven't managed to do, we've actually managed to get some of them, you know, on a second or third attempt. So that's been quite good as well. We've done training over the last 3 months. The named nurse, Christine, attended the sexual behaviours traffic light training, and she also attended a True Honour modern day slavery training, and I attended the Harrow Children and Adults Safeguarding Board annual conference, which was really, really good. We've also tried to attend monthly MACE meetings, and if we haven't managed to do that, then we certainly will liaise with the head of the VVE team and also the social workers and the safeguarding nurse. Child protection supervision's been attended, monitoring meetings, and we've had regular team meetings and quarterly meetings with mental health services as well. And then our team news is that I don't know whether you know, but I retired, and I've returned, so I'm just working 2 days a week. So I work the end of the week, and my colleague Susan Padizzi, she joined the team on the 28th of January. So we are as one, really, and we're in constant communication. I think we did have a case study here as well, just to say that it was our specialist nurse recently did some health assessments on 6 siblings who were in 3 different foster placements, all had complex needs. One had undergone brain surgery and was being reviewed at the specialist hospitals. All the children had dental caries, mental health and physical health complexities. One had an eating disorder. Referrals were in place to all the specialities. And then a further complication was that one of the 3 older siblings has actually been found to be 3 years older than originally thought. So that in itself is difficult, because obviously she's been in a school, and also it has a bearing on what injections and things she's needed. So we're supporting throughout that. And we continue to be supported and support multi-agency teams and other health services, other CLA health services where our children are placed.
Okay, well, thank you very much for that report, Laurie. It certainly is encouraging to hear that we are 100% up on all IHAs and RHAs, so that was a very positive report and very encouraging to hear. I just wondered, you mentioned the case study of the young person that was found to be 3 years older than they actually are. And you mentioned some of the complications with that. I wondered if you could expand on that, Alyssa, because some years ago, I'm aware of, certainly not in the London Borough of Harrow, there was a young lady in one of the neighbouring schools who was several years older than she was declared to be, and she was in Key Stage 4 at the time. And things changed suddenly very quickly for this young lady. She was taken out of school and placed into college, and she really needed quite a lot of support. So it's very worrying to hear of the cases of children being sort of actually chronologically older than they've been declared to be. So where does that leave that young person?
Well, the social workers, I mean, it's only really just happened. So the school is very much aware, the social workers are all very much aware and working towards that. And the GP is aware. So as soon as the right age is established, and these things do take quite a lot of time, she will be given the right amount of she will be given the injections that she's due. And dental and optician wise and health thing, the paediatricians, if they're involved with her as well, will also be informed. So she will, although she might be now 3 years older than she said, and in fact I think she was the one that actually brought it up. She's been very open about it, so everybody does know, and she will be supported continually by health and by social services and education.
Right. Good, thank you. That is really good to know. I can see that Dr. Lewinson has got her hand up. So over to you.
Yes, Laurie, thank you for that. I was just wondering about the Zoom consultation with the children when they won't put on their camera. As a health visitor myself years ago, I remember that, it's so important not just to talk to them, but to actually see the child or see the baby. So I'm just wondering, do you do a follow-up to that Zoom call if they won't put on their camera?
Yeah, certainly the little ones are certainly being seen anyway by the health visitors, and we're in communication with those. The older children, this particular boy I was talking about is actually very, very non-compliant. So I was actually very lucky to be speaking to him in the first place. But we will certainly, we will try and do a review. So anybody that needed anything extra, we will do. We will always follow up.
Okay, thank you.
Right, thank you for that. And Councillor Janet.
Oh, that's it. Super. Well, welcome back, Laurie. Then after being retired and coming back, super to have you back with us. That's lovely. Fantastic. I'm just really curious to know, I wonder how we're going to work with the CCG, because now we've got 8 local CCGs coming into the one CCG. So it'd be interesting to see if it's going to have any effect on us as well. Wonderful that we've still got the 100% on the assessments, and I know that's something that we've strived for years, and it's really absolutely wonderful that happens. And I do remember some time ago when I was talking to a young person in care, and I think it was in one of the panel meetings that we had, and we talked about face-to-face consultations, and one of them said that they felt more comfortable on the telephone or doing something virtually. They felt more at ease, and I thought that was quite a strange thing to say. So I don't know whether some older children do find it more difficult when they're sitting and talking to somebody face to face. So
I think so. I mean, I think, speaking from somebody of my great age, I don't feel so comfortable sitting virtually,
No.
and I'm much better face to face. But these children are very, very used to this age, aren't they? So they're doing that virtually all the time. So I think sometimes we're now moving into their age, really. And I think, for certain things, if they feel, what I will do is, if we were talking to any of the children and they are talking about medical or health needs that haven't been met, then we will write a letter to their GP and CC them into it and ask them to make an appointment with that GP. So we will always follow these children up, and I think it's very, very rare that we don't actually manage to see them, actually, because although we have got some missing at the moment, we will catch them at some point, I'm sure. But if we haven't, then and they're out of borough, then we will always speak to the appropriate health professional anyway, as long as the social worker or as long as we've picked up those health needs. And the other thing that came up earlier on was about the dentist as well. Yeah, we have had some episodes, but what I've done with those is we have been able to refer to the specialist dental service for some of the children that have come into care where they haven't been seen by the dentist. But Sue Sheldon is also aware of certain children where we've had some difficulties. So we're working very closely really with the CCG as well.
Super, because I was so worried about the fact when they said, you know, oh, well, we're going to charge, you know, this, that and the other. And I thought, goodness me, these are children.
No, they shouldn't be.
Yeah. Should be free anyway, you know.
Yeah, they absolutely should. And we would follow those things through as well. So anywhere we have had some difficulties, we have escalated those.
That's lovely. Thank you very much, Laurie. Thank you.
Right. Thank you for your question, Janet, and Laurie for a very comprehensive answer. Teresa, if I can go to Teresa, you've got your hand out.
Hello, yes, I was just getting myself off of mute. Yes, my name's Teresa Chisholm. I'm the Clinical Service Manager for the Harrow 0 to 19 service and Harrow Children Looked After service. So I'm here with Laurie Ward today. I just wanted to go back to Councillor Moat's question or comment about the CCG and some of the changes, and just to reassure members that we are working really very closely with the local authority, our commissioners and the CCG. So there's always going to be change, especially in the NHS. There's a lot, well, everywhere there's a lot of change. But we have a very good close working relationship. We have quarterly meetings where we have similar people in the room. So we've built up those very good relationships and we will be maintaining those. So although there are some changes, please don't worry that that communication is still very much going ahead. And we're maintaining all of our links with and having some very, very good meetings with staff around the table that are here today. So I hope that is reassuring.
Definitely.
Okay. Well, thank you for
definitely
that.
Reassuring. Thank you very much, Teresa, for that. Because when you have things that do change, you never know how it's going to pan out, and you often have teething problems and whatever. But thank you for the reassurance. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that contribution, Teresa. That clarified some uncertainty. So thank you for that. So I'm going to recommend that this report be noted, and we are on the final item of the agenda, which is any other business. Any other business. No. So I believe our next meeting is on the 5th of October. But Moen will sort of notify us well in advance of that. So if there is no other business, I propose that we end the meeting at 19:33. And thank you all once again for what has been an excellent, a really good meeting for all the different contributions. So thank you. Thanks very much, and I will see you all next time. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.